how would you say a small construction business with limited resources can effectively market themselves?
Education is important. Like often they aren't going to be able to, they just might not have someone in their corner to help them and guide them on like where to be investing. But there is such a wealth of free resources out there. So regardless of your preferred channel or like online space, whether it might be YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram, there's so many content creators out there talking about like the basics of marketing and just kind of educating for free.
Are you struggling with marketing in your business? Well, if you are, you should stick around because today we're diving into a very crucial aspect of business growth, which is marketing. And joining us today is Jessica, a seasoned marketing strategy specialist. Welcome, Jessica. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, who you work with?
Definitely. Yeah. So I've been in marketing for about 15 years. 3 years ago, I started my own business as a fractional CMO. So, fractional chief marketing officer. And what that means is I work with companies, I have a handful of clients at a time, and I help them create a marketing strategy to drive their business forward. And then, depending on our package and, if I'm working with a client long term, I will also help oversee their team in bringing that strategy to life.
That sounds very impactful.
Yeah.
The biggest reason I wanted to have this conversation is because I see an absolutely huge gap when it comes to marketing in construction industry. A
Yeah.
lot of guys that I'm talking to on a daily basis, they do not invest much into marketing. They don't have any social media accounts, and they most certainly do not post everything, they do every day. I feel like to them, digital marketing is seen as more applicable to industries like retail, technology, influencers. Why, in your opinion, is it equally important in the construction industry?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's actually more important for exactly the reasons you're saying. Like, I think it's often, depending what niche you're in within construction, it can be a really cluttered space. And my husband is actually in construction and development. So I know that area really, really well. And there's so much low hanging fruit there. So I feel like if someone invests even like a small amount in their branding and marketing, it goes such a long way because they can really stand out amongst the rest of the people in an industry that's like really not doing a lot. So I think it's such a strong growth strategy, and I think it's actually almost exciting to be in an industry that's like a little behind when it comes to digital marketing because you can so easily surpass your competition by just putting in like a little bit of effort and doing some really simple things in your business.
Oh, I agree. You don't have a lot of competition when it comes to being out there every day, social media posting and all that. But if you think about how people find help, like I go to Google, so that means you need good SEO.
Yeah.
I'm on Instagram, and if I see someone building a cool deck and I'm like, I need a cool deck, I'm
Yeah.
gonna contact you.
Yeah.
And I feel
Absolutely.
like not a lot of people understanding that kind of value. Um, how can construction businesses leverage social media in particularly, do you
Yeah,
think, to
that's a great
enhance?
question. I think social is such a great place to be for the construction industry, and you actually gave a few great examples there. So many times I think like the women are the researcher in the household. Like I'm just generalizing, but often it's the woman like researching and finding options and things like that for getting that kind of work done if it's like a household thing. And Instagram is such a big channel. It's very like women dominate, not dominated over there in terms of like who's on there. I won't say, across the board, but um, Instagram can actually be used as like almost a search engine. So if you're using the right keywords in your posts and you're optimized for your city or your location or the regions in which you serve, you can actually get discovered pretty easily. So to your point, if you're looking for someone to come build a deck or like, I don't know, put up a like wall paneling in your office. Like I literally just got somebody to do that in my house not too long ago. If you're searching on Instagram and you find an account that almost is like a portfolio of their past work and testimonials, it's such a quick, easy way to find service providers that you're looking for, and then a quick, easy way for someone to see, the work you've done in the past and kind of the transformations that you've been able to have for clients.
I agree with that too.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I didn't start Instagram till a couple months ago. And because I thought that's all, women on Instagram, but I'm actually surprised how many men and how many men in construction are using Instagram and other social media.
Yeah.
And it's just such a huge avenue.
Yeah.
Now, let's shift it a little bit. What are some challenges that construction businesses face, you think, when it comes to marketing efforts?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, from what I know, and I think it kind of depends where, what kind of level of construction company we're talking about. So if we're talking about like kind of the small to mid-sized company that serves like a local community versus maybe like a more on the commercial side, like those companies that are larger, I'm assuming your audience fits into more of the former bucket. Is that right?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. Yeah. So sort of that small to medium size, I would say like probably what I see as the biggest challenge, especially in talking to like some of my husband's contacts in that space, is that marketing is not really something that they've invested in a lot often. So they don't really know where to start. They don't really know what kind of a budget to allocate, and they also don't really know what the return is going to be. And the thing with marketing is there's often this like beginning phase of you need to be kind of laying the foundations of your brand. Like you might be needing to get a proper website up or kind of get your website up to standards. You might be kind of like starting out with a strategy. So there's often this initial investment period of time, of potentially budget, where you might not see any return. So I think that can be one challenge, just to kind of like mentally be able to wrap their head around that. And then I would say another challenge would be just being able to understand what they need in the business and kind of where to start. I my like huge kind of value or belief with marketing is less is more, and I would rather every single day I'd rather see people do like one or two things like excellently and really see results from them than be like kind of watered down across a whole bunch of different initiatives or things they're trying to do within their marketing. So I think like often what I see in the construction industry is people just don't have a sounding board, like someone to go to be like, where do I spend my money? Like, should I do SEO? Should I be on Instagram? Like, what does the investment look like? What kind of a return can I expect? Like based on the size of my company and the budget I'm comfortable setting aside, like where should I be investing this? So I think it's kind of those, they're very much related, but I think those are probably like the primary problems.
Yeah, to your point, there are a lot of avenues on how you're going to advertise your business. And sometimes it's hard to think, okay, what would be the best thing for me? I remember when I was just starting out and I hired a coach, she said one thing that really stuck to me. And she goes, just start with one platform,
Yeah.
master it, automate it to where you are mostly out of the processes, and then you add another one, then you master and add another one. So I think that is a very helpful note to this. And so I feel like the one of the most important things for like small businesses, if we're talking about them, startup companies, is to learn how to implement good marketing and sales principles, because at this stage you got to get out there and let people know what you do and how you can help, but
Yeah.
the budget is low. So how would you say a small construction business with limited resources can effectively market themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would do a couple of things. One, I think education is important. Like often they aren't going to be able to, they just might not have someone in their corner to help them and guide them on like where to be investing. But there is such a wealth of free resources out there. So regardless of your preferred channel or like online space, whether it might be YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram, there's so many content creators out there talking about like the basics of marketing and just kind of educating for free on all of that. So I think like first investing, and it doesn't have to be a lot of time, but even if you spend like 10-15 minutes popping into the channel of your choice and like consuming some of that content day to day, it's going to just be absorbed. And then you're going to slowly over time start to learn some of the marketing fundamentals that will help you make really good decisions around where to invest your time and your energy and your budget with marketing. So I would definitely say that. And then once you feel like you have kind of a baseline knowledge, I think that, to generalize, I would probably ensure that somebody has like a really solid brand in place. I think that many construction companies don't really have like a great cohesive brand across their channels. And even just doing that, it kind of raises the bar a little bit. And from a customer perspective, you look a little bit more legitimate, professional. So making sure your branding is consistent across your website, any other digital platforms that you're on. Kind of if you think through all of your customer touch points, like email, any quotes you might be sending out, invoices, like all of that, just making sure it feels really cohesive and consistent is probably the first place. And then I would think about, like, especially if it's a small, more local business, I think investing in some SEO. SEO is a little bit of a can of worms. There's so many things that contribute to it. But it, especially in an industry that's not doing a ton, you can actually rank pretty easily and it doesn't have to cost a mass amount of money. So that would probably be one place I would really invest in. And then the last two would be looking at like anything local that you think your target audience might be at. So if there's maybe like, like a home design convention or something like that, and it makes sense for you to be there because your target audience might be there. Potentially that is a great one. And then the last thing I would say is a little bit of social media, again, depending on exactly what type of construction company you are. But I think choosing one channel and again, less is more. Like, try to be consistent. So whether maybe you're posting once or twice a week, 3 times, 4 times, like as much as you can kind of manage, but just trying to be really consistent in one channel and just always showing up there. But again, like really, really simplifying your strategy so you're not doing too many things in a really watered down way. You're really focused on like 2 or 3 really core needle movers in your business.
Yeah, you would be surprised what kind of information you can find
Mm.
nowadays on the internet.
Yeah.
Watching YouTube videos, watching Instagram. I remember being stuck on Instagram just on one person's page that was talking about how to grow on Instagram. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm binge watching Instagram
Yeah.
tutorials.
Yeah.
What is happening with this world?
Yeah.
Um, well, when it comes to businesses who are established, right? They have been present and they've been at it, I don't know, 5 years or so. Any specific marketing tactics that you found can yield high returns?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if they've been around a while and they're doing some of the basics that I just mentioned, I think paid ads can be really effective, um, especially because they can be so targeted locally. It's a really easy way to run promotions. It's really, really measurable. So if you're working with a paid ads agency or somebody who's running your paid ads, it is almost always like measurable from the ad all the way through to conversion of like someone becoming a customer. So you should really easily be able to see if you're getting an ROI on that. I think that would probably be my number one. And then potentially maybe even some like boots on the ground, more like traditional marketing, whether it be like mailers or I've even seen some like door to door tactics work really, really well. We actually have this window cleaning company who like they knocked on our door 3 years ago and they've cleaned our windows every single year. Granted, a little bit different than construction, but what they will do is they'll book like one client in an area and then they will have their team and they will literally fill up their schedule by knocking on doors. So again, it's a little different depending what construction area you're in. That might not work for everybody, but I think that there's some like local marketing tactics that are a little bit different industry to industry.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. We just had a couple of days ago. We had so many neighbors so upset because we have no soliciting neighborhood, and they're like, "I can't believe they knock on my door." We had a pest solution company, but when they knocked on my door, I really needed to get rid of some ants.
Yeah. Right? Sometimes you're
Uh,
like, this is perfect timing. Like, thank you. I actually need you.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
a really perfect timing. And another thing that I remember, I used to go to this BNI group that is local. And one thing that I've noticed is that every time we get somebody like a plumber, an electrician, all of those guys in, they don't last in there because as soon as they get in, they get so many referrals that they're
Yeah.
like too busy to keep
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well,
100%. Yeah.
B&I didn't work out that good for me, but for
Yeah.
construction industry and for that kind of, home improvement services, I feel like it's a great strategy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I also think too, like depending on what kind of construction you're doing, I think it's an industry that's a little bit behind the times when it comes to technology, as well as like I want to say user experience, which is like such a tech term. Customer service is like more appropriate for that industry. And what I mean by that is often there is like, I know this is a little outside of marketing, but it's also related when it comes to like the touch points people experience when they interact with your company. There's often so much low hanging fruit from a technology perspective. So, is there any opportunity within your business to automate any of your processes to kind of like free up your time or make you more efficient, or make things like flow and feel a little bit better to the customers who are interacting with you? And I'll give you an example. Again, a little bit of a different industry because this is a home service, but we have like a grass maintenance. They come and do like spraying and a bunch of like weed prevention things and stuff like that. And so they like sign you up every year for this package, super affordable and like really great. And they're going to do like whatever, 5 different visits and X different things. They have like an automated system that calls you. It's just literally all automatic. And they're like, hi, we're going to be there on this day to this day, like prepare this. And this is what we're doing and blah, blah, blah. So saving the team from actually having to call you, email you, do anything. So I think that's something I don't see at all really in the construction industry. So if there's any opportunity to like bring in tech to like think through your customer experience and free up your team's time, like super awesome there. And then I think just really focusing on your customer's experience and making sure that like from literally every touch point, from them reaching out to inquiring all the way through to like after the project. To give you an example, for this wall panel that I got installed in my office, I had somebody like personally reach out to me from the company and ask like how I felt about it. Was I happy with it? Before they even sent the invoice, which I just felt was like that extra step that like not a lot of people do, which for me felt amazing. And if I ever had anyone locally that needed something like this, I would recommend that company in a heartbeat because the service that I had was like phenomenal. So I think like it's a little bit of a roundabout way of marketing, but referrals and word of mouth, especially in construction, is such a strong marketing channel. So really focusing on customer delivery and like aiming for that 11 out of 10 experience is going to set you so apart from everybody else.
Yeah, referrals are huge. It's like people already trust that you will deliver. I know for me that when I share the stories of my clients and their testimonials online, people really relate and then they can see that what we do works.
Yeah.
That's worth a lot. And when you are providing quality service, it's easy to just get those referrals from other people.
Yeah.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for joining me today and having a
Thanks for
conversation.
having me.
I will post in the description how you can connect with Jessica. And we'll see you on the other side.